Task clerk Mike one.
I can get it out of my.
One. Right, task clerk Mike one. Then. And four.
At five.
Volume appears to be a little bit louder than it was.
Podium two. One. Podium one. Then. And four.
Good evening, everybody. We're going to call this meeting to order. We are at the city commission meeting on March 9, 2023. Is Pastor Mulberry? Pastor Mulberry, could you please give us the invocation?
Sure. Father, we thank you once again for your loving kindness and for the multitude of your tender mercy. God, here we are again. We stand in your presence as an open people. We pray, God, that you will crown our head with wisdom and give us understanding, God, in those things that are needful to move the city forward. We pray, God, that your hand would be upon our commissioners, our mayor, and to all that are involved in this process. We ask God for divine guidance and for wisdom and for the courtesy of respect for each other. We pray, God, that you will bless even now, lift even now, and give strength and courage. In Jesus' name we pray. Thank God. Amen and amen.
Amen. Commissioner Campbell, could you-
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Grant, roll call, please.
Thank you. Commissioner Tammy McCaskill.
Here.
Commissioner Justin Campbell.
President.
Commissioner Will Jones.
President.
Commissioner Rufus Gorham.
President.
Mayor Robbie Correa.
President,
All members present and accounted for. We have a quorum.
thank you. Approval of minutes, motion to approve on all 3 minutes, February 16th, 23rd, and 24th.
Motion to approve all 18 minutes.
Motion by Commissioner Campbell, second.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Warren, all in favor? Any opposition? Okay. Public recognition presentations. We've had a request for a proclamation for National Safe Place Week, rather, excuse me. We're sorry, like the motion to approve. We're going to read an abbreviated version in a minute. Do you want to read the abbreviated version, Ms. Chris?
Once passed, I, Roberta M. Correa, Mayor of the City of Palatka, together with the members of the Palatka City Commission, do hereby proclaim March 22nd through 29th, 2023 as National Safe Place Week in the City of Palatka, and we call upon our citizens to promote the program, and we encourage neighboring communities to establish safe place locations.
So moved.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Ms. Carter? Would you like to tell us a little more about?
Sure, I'd love to. We have about 34 safe places in Putnam County. And what safe place is a place that if a child feels unsafe for any reason whatsoever, if they're out on the street, if there's something at home, or maybe they're even just getting bullied and they are afraid to go home, they can go into one of these places with a sign and say, I need some help. And that person just really has to be kind and say, and call me, and I will come and take care of it as best I can, do whatever I can for the child. It's just a great way to help try to keep kids safe in the area. I do go to schools and talk to the kids about it, so they all know about Safe Place. And I really appreciate all of you supporting us and supporting Safe Place and supporting our kids being safe in Putnam County. Yeah. I was gonna discuss that. Okay.
Maybe that, geez.
Thank you all.
Next, presentation, accreditation of the Palatka Police by the Florida Department of Law Enforcement Chief Shaw.
Good evening, Mayor. On February 23rd, I had the privilege of attending the accreditation conference. And during that time, the Palatka Police Department, the city of Palatka, was awarded from the Commission of Florida Law Enforcement Accreditation the certificate for reaccreditation. And I wanted to take this opportunity to share it with the Commission in the city. And just so they know that we were reaccredited and we are being considered for subsidies for the Palatka Police Department, for our department. And I wanted to be able to share in recognition of that accomplishment.
Thank you.
I can get commissioners and you to take a picture.
Come down.
You want to jump in with me?
What's down there? Sure. Yeah. You don't feel like you're the same. We know what it takes. I could have done. Thank you.
Thank you.
County Manager and Administrative reports, Mr. Holmes.
Madam Mayor, we have some updates on some projects that we would like to present. Who's going to? Dale, are you going to take Hank Bryan Park? I will. Mr. McMillan, the Public Works Director.
She did. If not, take them out of order and I'll find it.
Okay.
Well, good evening, Commissioners, Madam Mayor. Unfortunately, our report that we have produced is not in our tonight, but I can go extemporaneously. We have conducted an assessment of the playground and the park. We've identified some structures that can be removed, such as the older green jungle gyms based on condition and fall zone protection. We've identified some repairs that can be made very easily to the, I'll call them the newer, the plastic and steel structures and the ADA swing set. I guess recondition them and bring them up to the standards that are necessary for play for our children. We should be producing at least some work going forward regarding the pavilions and the benches. We've received some quotes to repaint and pressure wash and restain the pavilions and benches. So looking forward to having some progress pictures of that work.
Thank you.
Questions?
Next item would be John's Metals at on Madison Street, corner of Madison and 19. We after a couple of conferences among staff, directed certified mail correspondence to the owner of John's Metal and hand delivered it. I believe Mr. Cutright and Chief Shaw hand delivered it as well. That letter essentially advises him that the city intends to take progressive action in an attempt to address what is alleged to be his continued violation of the use of the right of way adjacent to Madison and 19th Street. We advised him that the first step we're taking is the placement of concrete barriers in the right of way. They, in order to comply with DOT standards for safety, will be parallel to the roadway. But they will in fact be placed in a location so that they will impair the right of way in terms of its usefulness, hopefully as a business. We will also put orange drums, the nature of the plastic drums that you see in construction sites along that stretch that we do not have concrete barriers to cover. We did not buy any barriers, and we did not rent any. We were successful in having the county loan us some concrete barriers. I think they're 10 feet in length each one. And we'll be placing those in place. And the letter also advises him that if he moves those barriers, then it is our intent to pursue every remedy available at law against him. Further, the letter advises him that we will proceed to foreclosure on the liens that have accumulated on this properties as soon as the deadline has been met for that we have established for allowing fines to accrue, which is soon now, as I recall, Mr. Cutler, I can specify. And then finally, the letter advises him that if all of those actions are not successful in obtaining in compliance with our request that he cease and terminate use of the right of way, we will initiate litigation against him aimed at declaring his place of business a nuisance. The letter was just delivered yesterday. So anyway, we have not had a lot of opportunity to see what effect it's going to have. And of course, we did give him 10 days notice of the placement of the barriers, because they are the heavy concrete barriers, which are placed with a machine that I don't even think we have one that's heavy enough to place them, do we? So we're accomplishing that. So it's an effort. I understand it may not be a perfect effort, but it's an effort to try to move in a direction and to let him know that we're serious. I am well aware of the fact that there are other businesses in town that are using the right of way adjacent to their businesses. However, it's my contention in the letter that his use of the right of way is different in scope and nature than any other business that's using the right of way, and that constitutes a safety hazard to traffic and pedestrians, as well as it is a nuisance that is diminishing property values in the area. So that is in fact my belief and reasoning for believing that we might be able to enforce the restriction on the right of way there, where there are others in town that are also using it. Any questions about that?
Appreciate the efforts.
So next, staff, in addressing what we believe are continuing concerns that have been raised by the commission as well as citizens, met, and we have decided to present a program to the city, which we're ready to implement, which would use some of the ARPA money that has been allocated to the city, but not yet necessarily assigned to a program, to begin an aggressive program to try to remove some of the most blighted structures in the city. We understand that this has to be a phased-in approach. Staff went out and surveyed the city and tried to pick 10 sites to begin with that are inarguably blighted and beyond repair, and that have an impact on surrounding values. Our plan would be to approach these 10 structures with a focused method, but it'll be multidimensional. First, we're having title searches done on all 10 to see if there is someone with good and marketable title to the property that we might actually contact about purchasing the property. Quick, it's easy, it'll take some fun, but once purchased, we could abate the nuisance and then put the property back on the market. Second, and simultaneously, code cases have been lodged against these properties, and that compliance vehicle is also being utilized. But third, with the information that we get from the title work, if we don't have a defined and what you might say established owner who can convey marketable title, it's our intent to go ahead and file abatement suits against those 10, which would, as the commission probably knows, ultimately result, assuming the city proves its case, in a court order that would allow the owner 30 days to eliminate the blight, eliminate the nuisance condition. In the alternative, it would vest the city with the power to go and eliminate the blighted condition, and it would allow and reserve its order jurisdiction to impose a lien upon the property for all costs incurred by the city in the process. It would be our hope that if owners do not eliminate the blight, then we would go forward, get the order, eliminate the blight, and acquire a lien, which would then be foreclosed upon, with the end result that we would acquire clear title of the property and resell it. That's an overview, and I'd like to defer now to either Mr. Griffith or Mr. Cutright or both to try to advise you of the 10 structures. Now, we are here to basically, I guess, seek approval of the commission for us to move forward in this fairly aggressive manner. And I'll leave at this point. I'll stop the introduction and allow Mr. Cutright to take over.
Well, we put a team together, a task force team, I know I say task force, of my military background, to address the concerns that you have brought to the code enforcement and also the concerns that the community have brought to the code. It's originally 18 properties, but we narrowed it down to 10 for the first phase. And it's broken down to 3 tiers. It's a tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. Tier 1 is major dilapidated structures, safe and health concern structures that really is almost self-explanatory. Tier 2 would be more of a structural issue property that we can kind of either be repaired, replaced, and fixed. But property owner has the opportunity to bring that in correction and violation correction. And in tier 3, just normal code enforcement issues anyway. I don't know, is there more pictures on that? Sonny, if you could, it's just a quick overview. I will be sending everybody a detailed report of what we try to do, but it's just to give you an idea of what we want to do and hopefully you can get.
It's only tier 1 structures that we intend to address in the fashion that I outlined with the aggressive abatement and or attempt to purchase. So
So from the tier 1, from the beginning to the end of getting to the vacant property, what's the cost? That's an average cost per unit when you're doing that to the city.
believe that in the past, and Mr. Griffith can speak to this, but I believe in the past that we averaged, including tipping fees and depending upon how much any break we get, about $10,000.
That's correct. And I'll add to that, you currently have $225,000 in ARPA funding allocated for this effort. And you have remaining $47,000 from last year's sale of surplus property. And later on in this agenda, we're presenting some additional surplus property. So the proceeds of that potential sale, if you authorize it, and even from Hammock Hall, could potentially go towards this program.
Yeah, one structure was that. Is that the one that's on the 13th Street?
Right. Don't quote me the address right off the top of my head, but yeah, we have one on 213th Street, and I think another one is on 1 Washington Street.
13th and
Washington.
Yes, that's the, okay. Cause
Go ahead and scan to the picture, son.
it looked worse. Yeah, it actually looked worse than the picture showing it.
We just go over, we have detailed pictures of all of them, and we'll put them, send y'all next week, we'll give you breakdowns of everything.
That's the last one. I'll go back up.
And again, those are just the first 10 that we poured out for tier 1. We actually have more than that, but we can only bite off a little bit on that.
Our aim was to get properties that were basically undeniably blighted, dilapidated, safety risks, etc. for the first 10.
That's 722 River Street.
That's still for the
Nobody own it?
Yes.
Yeah,
It's on.
yes, I have the property information.
They're not, I thought it was old my paper, but, I mean, not, well, fortunate of it, but it looked like it needed to be.
So if the commission, we can answer questions, if the commission has any. We didn't want to start this program without the commission being aware of it in advance. And if you have concerns, qualms, or
I think it's time. I think it's time.
So I think we initiated trying to do get rid of blighted lawn, and this is a major step in my support. 100%.
Certainly got mine. Shine the gem, keep shining the gem.
You have my support. I would almost do this as a campaign so that the citizens of the city is aware the efforts that we are trying to make in hopes of saying that possibly we're doing them now, but you could be next, some type of deal.
And I apologize, I failed to mention that, Commissioner. It's a very good point and one that we intend to address both with information on our website. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, sorry, Commissioner. That's a great idea. We actually looked into the cost to send a mailer out to everybody in the city that owned property, and it was estimated at $3,500. So in addition to some of the other things that Mr. Holmes started to mention, we were planning on doing that.
It is our hope, as you were implying, that if we sent the mailer out, action was seen, it might encourage some to take compliance measures on their own. So we agree that's a good step.
And also to add to that, code enforcement and planning and zoning is going to do quarterly meetings with the community to educate them on what blight is, what issues, what concerns they could be looking for, and how to fix some of the deficiencies.
And lastly, my last request is with some of these meetings, I don't know if they can be recorded, but I think it'll be very informative if we can point some people back who were not able to attend those meetings to some kind of resources like recordings that we can send them to say, hey, these are some of the questions that you may have, and these are some of the answers to them, or a Q&A on the website, or just so that we can refer people back to.
And what I can do is put the top 10 questions and answers on my Facebook page and also on Instagram, so you can have somebody to reach out to see. And I'm willing, and my staff is willing to go into neighborhoods and talk to those that could come to me.
We can also do this as well in terms of, the website that you can go and register the, light.
Yes.
Community, as well as if you want to just do a database search on the form.
And I work to set up for that way, so they can kind of get it there and kind of.
To add, this is a question, and I don't know if the commission considered, or is this also including maybe getting some ARPA funds or utilizing them? If we have the level 3 normal structure that could possibly have minute or minor repair, but the homeowner is not have capacity to do so. Is there any way we can utilize some of those funds to assist those individuals? Now, when I say that, I'm not talking about just, I'm saying an individual that maybe physically challenged, can't get out and do the repairs, and they may need to get a contractor out. And I thought we were talking about something like helping them as well, not so that we won't get the perception that we're taking people property. That's what I'm saying. Some of these are no one's living in them, but some of them are going to be tagged by your department for codes, and maybe we can just help them. I don't know if it's possible or not. I'm just throwing it out there. Is there an option available for that, Mr. Griffin, Mr. Holmes?
I would believe that if we establish criteria in advance as to who would qualify, i.e. someone on an income below X, someone with physical disabilities, that type of criteria, which was established as part of the program that the commission approved, then the only other thing we'd have to establish is a method of allocating the money.
Just a suggestion, Mr. Holmes and commissioners, we could go back and we could maybe look at some community partners, because the administration of the program is probably something that we're not equipped to do, but I'm sure there may be somebody in the community that we could partner with. Wouldn't you say, Mr. Holmes?
Certainly think we could.
We used to partner with Home Depot and Lowe's for community projects that they had different things with people throughout the community. They went in and did a number of things. I remember working with them on a number of projects. They even got the school district with E.H. Miller and the Palatka High, different things. So we need to work with
I think
those
that
resources.
as important is, and to Mr. Griffith's point is, group that we could partner with to help us with administering that program. That would be, and there are groups that we could certainly reach out to and look at the possibility of them helping.
And Randy also helps in the,
We could probably develop a master list of those and talk about it and seek out.
And maybe some of the funds that we recover or recuperate, we could, yes, that's what I'm talking about. Not the major that we would have to take on as.
So I have a question. We talked about the administration of within that 225,000. Can it go towards paying administration costs?
Jonathan, you have an opinion on that?
I'm sorry, I was giving Mr. Cano a hard time for showing up. I didn't catch that.
The question was, can we use any of the 225 in ARPA money that has been generically allocated towards this sort of project for administration, i.e. to pay a community partner to help or
Yeah, it would
offset cost?
It would most likely need to be a contracted service though. Yes, sir.
We did look into that.
So
Do we need to, entertain a motion?
well, yeah, I mean, well, I think we had something in play for Commissioner a while back when we were doing the ARPA thing in terms of helping some of the community with some of the projects.
No, I'm talking about this,
You're
but
talking about the.
Okay, oh yeah, we'll go ahead and do that. Right.
So would somebody like to entertain a motion?
Well, approve for this project.
Have a motion?
not second.
Second, all in favor?
Uh,
Aye. Any opposition? Thank you.
thank you. We'll move forward. Then a couple of brief comments by me, and then Ms. Cano, do you want to report on the vote, or you want me to?
I'm delighted to report on the vote. Marcia Goodell, project manager. So we have a private Palatka. One, it is dry dock at Gibson Dry Dock. We had the Trident has been on board completing the repairs. There had been some water that accumulated in the floor deck, had gone through that. We had the Coast Guard there on Wednesday. They went through, they were very positive about all the repairs that they had seen. There was another longitudinal member that we agreed on the fix for that. Very, very reasonable, very, very doable. Trying in the process of finishing those. So we are really, we're going to take care of a couple other things while it's dry dock. And then, so I think next week it'll be back in the water, and then we'll be doing the final list of lighted exit signs, push pull on the doors,
Fire extinguisher brackets.
fire extinguisher bracket, the short punch list of items that have to be displayed in the boat, and we'll be ready for the Coast Guard final COI inspection.
we got red in the dry dock.
I need more.
But whatever the commission ultimately decides to do with these boats, we had to get it finished.
Yeah.
And so that was a result of prodding the bond company again, I guess prodded the contractor again. And so it looks like we will get a seal of approval from the Coast Guard in the very near future. That was the opinion that unless you misunderstood or unless I understood something different from you, that seemed to be the opinion of the Coast Guard inspector.
I think absolutely, and then followed up with a report from the marine architect.
We also have reconnected with Mr. Lagasse and, or Lagasse, in any event, regarding the contract, and hopefully it'll be at a make or break point here very soon. So next I wanted to mention to you, Ms. Jones is on Zoom. We interviewed a potential finance director candidate today. I do not want to presume anything right now, but if background check seems to work out, I think staff that was present all agreed that she seems very qualified and a good fit. So if the background check, which is, and in this case, I believe the background check will in fact probably yield no surprises. we would be looking at trying to make an offer. She's currently the finance director in Quincy, Florida, where she's been for 4 years. Uses the same system we use in Palatka, ADG. Basically, engineered and staffed and designed her own department there. Does the budget, basically everything that was very similar to us, very similar in terms of number of employees, et cetera, et cetera. So have high hopes at this time right now. Unless Ms. Jones jinxes us. And then finally, I did send an email out to you today, and this is preliminary, but I wanted to keep the commission informed. As you know, the mayor, Mr. Griffith, and I went to Tallahassee a few weeks ago, and with our lobbyists presented the appropriation priority that you approved to a number of different senators and representatives. As I said, it's very early, and I don't want to in any way create a misimpression, but Senator Hudson and Representative Payne have filed appropriation bills that would fund all of your priorities. We all know that this is early and there will be a process and things will get cut down. But as of right now, I believe the total was about $24 million that was in the paper. And I said again, we all know that as this process goes forward, there'll be budget tightening, et cetera, et cetera. But it's just awful nice to see our local representative and senator put forth our priority in full, in paper, in the House and the Senate. And, even if we get it pared down, it's a good start. And that's all I have, unless you have questions.
If I may.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do you have one more thing? I apologize.
I believe John McMillan has a presentation.
Oh, I apologize, Dale. I thought you did yours.
There we go.
Oh.
Good evening again. I've compiled an update for a few projects, including the St. John's Avenue streetscape project and mold remediation, along with some of the other smaller projects we have going on in the city. If you go through some of the pictures, I think you might have noticed recently within town, the intersections are now open to traffic. We've entered into the punch list phase for the St. John's intersection streetscape phase. So right now, and they're leading minor items such as repairs or installing a detectable warning, and, basically wrapping up to get out of our way. So hopefully less traffic comes in the area. Just something of note that I found, did you know, they installed over 1,200 tons of 57 stone underneath all of our intersections to maintain the permeable surface. So it should aid in some drainage issues that are present downtown. We go forward, you can kind of see Fifth Street. This was prior to them being cleaned up. We had gone through and swept in conjunction with TD Landmark to remove a lot of the sediment that settled over the long construction process that we've had. But if you want to continue this on. Again, these are just 6th Street going down. I think that they do represent the vision that was put forth by staff for these intersections, and hopefully what we should expect out of the rest of the St. John project. 8th Street, keep going, there's probably 20 slides or 20 pictures. So the mold remediation is at this point in the final stages, basically just waiting on a walkthrough for myself tomorrow for the standardization expert we've passed. So there is no more mold present in the building. So we should be able to enter the building now into the reconstruction phase. So that'll involve some significant drywall work, reconstruction of one of the displays, reconstruction of the bathrooms, reconstruction of the utility rooms. There was a significant amount that was removed. I'm going to continue through. You can kind of see some of the water damage from the roof leaks, present that are now repaired. Some of the mold that was present inside the walls in the restrooms. Some of the remediation. So they sealed off certain areas of the building in order to sanitize it and maintain a protective barrier while they're working on the rest of the structure. Again, that's a significant amount of drywall that was removed. It needs to be replaced, but we're looking forward to getting it done. Previously on Madison Street, we had conducted some repair efforts with staff and contractors, removing and relaying a lot of the pavers, to have a more serviceable surface. This is a skill that I think that is a benefit to us to build internally. We have a lot of rich streets that we can affect internally very quickly to give us a better surface until we have total reconstruction processes later on down the road. We want to continue. You can kind of see, you know, the after effects. It's a uniform surface, no more speed bumps. At least not too bad. Want to continue. Again, this area was a particularly bad condition. Ongoing. This is a fairly large leak in one of our sewer mains off West Larson Boulevard. Someone had played in it, but repairs should be happening. Well, they started today. They should have more evidence of completion tomorrow. It is a priority for us to fix this. This is some of the repair work or support work needed for the north side hot mix asphalt resurfacing program. The raising of one of the drainage inlets that sunk significantly. That's our staff. They pulled it up, raised it, I believe, 6 inches to the appropriate elevation. And that area has been filled in with lime base in preparation for paving in the middle of this month. We had to make some repairs to the city water tower to support the lactic acid filling efforts. Quite a significant process. I didn't realize how involved it would be to replace some cabling on it, but that has been, the cable itself has been fixed. There's some other, I guess, equipment issues that they'll be working through.
So that's a water tower?
Correct. So that was the inside chase going up to the top, and then the view, I guess, from the top of the antenna and safety light.
So we go to the top?
No, we did not. And Fred, I'm going to tell you, we don't have insurance. I would like to do it, but we continue. The 2 vehicles, the 2 F-150 trucks that were on consent channel last week were delivered. They're in our possession. We're in the process. Correct. We're in the process of putting the decals on them and getting some toolboxes for our utility staff to be using them as work vehicle. We're replacing a Ford Ranger and a Dodge Dakota, both of which are nearing 200,000 miles of in-city travel. The 200,000 miles on a truck driving 2 miles one way is pretty significant. We continue. At the end of 5th Street at Dunham, we've placed a structure. Basically, it's an outfall to address a complaint for buildup of water and road washouts at the end of that street. We'll direct that into the spillway. That is the steel reinforced concrete for the spillway on the backside. The bricks that we pulled out from 5th Street will be used to armor the spillway so that we don't have any erosion, and really it's cost effective riprap for us. This is the locating of a water line on the St. John's Avenue North Side project with the county for relocation. That is about 8 feet deep. They had to conduct a relocation of that water line to support the placement of that box culvert adjacent to it. That happened at night with city staff support. It started about 10 p.m. and ran until almost 6 a.m. It was quite a significant effort to get that accomplished. You can see the finished product in the next slide. Again, all of that just to put that pipe on top of that concrete box. 16 people there, contractor, DB Civil, working with the county, and then ourselves supporting for any incidentals and shutting off of the water. 11th Street, we've got some sidewalk reconstruction that happened at Main Street. This is in progress. Unfortunately, I did not get a chance to take the final picture. It looks nice today. I think that particular site needed some addressing, and we're glad to be able to support that. I think that's all I've got for you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have a question going back to St. John's and the pavers. I think it's a wonderful touch, but what are some of the updates about fixing the actual road? Because I think it's wonderful we have the pavers, but the road is horrible. It's horrible downtown, it's horrible through the city. I know I've received several calls. I myself try to avoid it, but I would like the citizens, because just as before coming into the meeting, I saw a Facebook status, and we know things can be blown out of proportion. But I would love to hear what's the plan what's the plan / update of the entire St. John's corridor?
Yeah, I'm happy to report on that, Commissioner. So we can bring back a more detailed report at the next meeting, but I don't mind telling you some of the things that have transpired over the past couple months. The first is we did an exercise where we looked at the bid quantities with the contractor that you currently have and reached out to some contractors in the area to see what a comparison of putting it back out to bid for resurfacing versus their contract costs. It does look like there are some cost savings that we could realize if we did put it back out to bid specifically for resurfacing of the road. The one hesitation is that we do not want to resurface until we're done with the sidewalk and the landscaping work because that can be somewhat messy and destructive to the new pavement surface. So where we stand right now is reaching out to an engineer, to value engineer, because we have to resubmit to DOT the new set of plans and specs, because what we previously had, we don't have the budget for, unfortunately, so we have to scale back a little bit. We're hoping to schedule that in the next couple of weeks. We believe it's going to be the same vendor that's doing your wayfinding permitting downtown, so they're already going to be working in the area. So in short, we're working on something, hope to have a more detailed report to you in about a month.
And John, just for clarification, you're talking about the design that you're talking about, is that going to be for the streetscape and sidewalk, or are you talking about the roadway itself?
Both.
Okay, so you indicated that it would not be appropriate to move forward with the street repaving until the sidewalk and streetscape was done.
Correct.
So can you give the commission any estimate of time frame on getting at a point so that we could start the actual road reconstruction?
You'll find me doing some math in front of you. So it's going to take about 2 to 3 months to get the vendor lined up and a contract in front of you and approved and to get the design going. Probably another 1 to 2 months to get the design finalized, and then probably another 2 months for procurement. So you're well close to 6 months before we even go back out to bid.
On the sidewalks and streetscape?
Yes, sir.
Is there a way that we would be able to formulate some kind of information flyer, just to kind of put out there as far as just saying this is an estimate? Again, I'm all about making sure that we have where we can point the citizens to some kind of timeline, just so that they have an expectation. And I think that if we kind of do a better job in that area, I know we have a public information officer that we're looking for currently, and that may assist with some of that stuff. But if we can kind of get some of those updates on the website, if we can do some kind of poster downtown that's just in a random spot, just something to say, excuse the mess, this is our progress.
Yes, and I failed to mention, and it would be an excellent opportunity to do it at the same time. We're still going to need to reach back out to the downtown vendors and property owners to get their feedback on that redesign and the scheduling. So we can do that in coordination with that effort. And thank you for the plug on the PIO. It's nice to get that word out.
Well, I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
You mentioned that this would be a way to get some cost savings if we put it back on the street. But we already have approval and we have a plan now that we scaled back on. Is that correct? Am I quoting you correct?
Yeah, you're about $1.4 million short.
Okay, so, and what that entails us taking out or taking out of the original plan?
It may be a better conversation to actually show you the full set of plans, so I can point at specific things, commissioners, but we're gonna have to scale back on the degree of landscaping, the degree of site amenities, which are benches, trash receptacles. Luckily, you won't have to scale back on the new lighting that's contracted with Florida Power and Light. That's still progressing. We will not be able to replace as much curb and gutter as we had originally hoped to. So it'll be limited to just removing the section of drop curb where you have old driveways where you don't need driveways anymore, and putting curb and gutter in there. We will have to achieve ADA compliance as we move through St. John's Avenue. That'll probably be the most costly element of what we're looking at doing. Resurfacing is estimated somewhere between $300,000 and $400,000. We have the budget for that. It's just getting the remaining components, which are the sidewalk, the landscaping, and the electrical infrastructure for the festivals to fit within the remainder of your budget.
So if we were to go ahead as planned, right now, the current, schedule that we're on, not putting it back on the street, what would be the timeline? Would be more quicker than 6 months?
I think, the contractor probably would come back with 6 to 8 month timeframe. It is very involved work, sir. It's not easy, especially working in and around businesses that you're trying to maintain access as much as you can. And the only way to fund that, right now, because you do not have that in revenues currently, or with what you would potentially be bringing in next fiscal year, would be debt service. It's the only way that we can do it.
Any further questions?
What they talked about the St. John's, I guess, repaving or whatever. But wouldn't that be, we also dealing with the water lines down St. John's? We have water lines going down St. John's in the section, right?
That project is done.
What from in the end now?
From 4th Street back to the railroad tracks, all the water lines have been replaced and the old lines have been abandoned.
Right, so I was, what about on from there, like we going the section from all the way out to 19 in that section and then the other section.
So Palm to Mosley is done and complete. I believe you guys actually signed off on it.
Correct. We signed up on and verified.
Yeah, and that section of resurfacing, we were speaking to Mr. Rodriguez at the county just this week. And he said that he was looking to get that out to bid in the next week or so. So the county is looking at resurfacing that in the coming months. That's Palm to Mosley.
And then wherever we got cooperation or coordination with the county to, because not all of it is city, so if y'all can kind of paint that a little bit for us a little bit to see, you know, the time frame for each section.
If you'd like, maybe not at the next meeting, but the meeting after, we don't have student month, we could do a specific presentation on the multiple phases of St. John's Avenue.
Yeah, that part.
Thank you.
So one brief and then one not so brief. The Belton House at 300 Main and the, 300 North, 300 North.
No, no, no.
Yeah. We have had title work completed, and it appears as though the path towards marketable title is not as maybe difficult as we as it might have been. It looks like 2 summary of state proceedings would accomplish delegation of authority to convey title in 3 surviving individuals. So I'm going to go ahead and initiate those 2 estate proceedings, and I've met with Ms. Snyder a couple of times. She's agreed to a contract which says that we will pay her the agreed upon price less our actual costs incurred in securing marketable title. And we will convey the money to her and the deed from her to us once we have secured marketable title. And so she's agreed to sign that deed, or that contract that we will be doing next week. So, and the 2 estate proceedings are pretty, they're summary proceedings. They shouldn't take a lot of time. So we should be able to, because of the circumstances, so we should be able to move that along pretty quickly, and then we can end up owning that property and moving forward to eliminate that particular building as well off of North 11th. Then the next item is may not be as quick. Pursuant to your direction, we went ahead and listed the properties, the Hammock Hall properties. We actually, with the input of the realtor, looked at a proposed lot split of the properties to make basically the properties a little bit more, we thought marketable. I'd pass that around if it's taken it off from a contract, but I gotta have that back. That shows in red how the lot split would work. So the one lot, the vacant lot, was valued at about $19,000. We received 3 offers, and the basically they were all about the same. And so the realtor told the three people that made offers, look, without telling anybody what anybody else's offer is, you have until 5 today to give us your best offer. Because they all offered contract price, 19,000. So, the three all then did submit new offers, one at 22 and two at $25,000. That's for the vacant property. Two of those three indicated they had an interest in buying the hammock hall, but they haven't had a chance to look at the hammock hall and decide for certain whether they, what they're willing to pay, et cetera. So what I have tonight are a couple of different issues. I have the three contracts, two at 25 and one at 22. And I forwarded to you by email earlier this week, last week, proposal that we received from Mr. Sheffield, whereby he indicates the South Historic Neighborhood Association wishes to buy the properties for a total price of $100,000, basically financed with TIP money on a deferred payment plan where they pay a certain amount down and a certain amount per year. And then today I was advised, in full disclosure, by Mr. Spalding that the neighbor adjoining our properties to the east was basically had questions about the sale purchase process, and I think he is here tonight. So I guess what I would like to do, if you are willing, is put on an emergency item or as an emergency item, an item which would be authorization for me to sign a contract for sale, agreeing to the sale of the vacant lot that is configured in the diagram that I showed you for the $25,000. And I would assume that we would have to perhaps decide among the two offered 25 as to which one it goes to. And I have not really spoken to Mr. Spalding about that process. And then during that discussion, we can talk about everything else that I've just raised. So if there is a desire for us to move forward by putting that on as an emergency item, then we can try to address these items right now.
That's definitely apart from the Hammond Hall.
Structure.
Right.
So
You know, the Hammond Hall, because I think Hammond Hall also wanted the lots as well. Right. And
It's up to you, Mr. as to whether what you get.
no, that's what, they don't want the building without the property, so that's what their request is.
That's what their request is.
So-
We have those three offers for the lots.
And it's entirely up to you, entirely up to the commission.
We didn't agree to this with the last meetings before.
No,
We hadn't agreed to do that.
I don't know about splitting, selling separate lots and.
But we advise you, in the broker's opinion, that you would be your best option for maximizing your profit would be to sell the vacant lot as a lot, and then Hammock Hall and the property it's on as a separate parcel. The only thing that's changed is, in order to make that one vacant lot a 0.26 acre lot, we had contemplated a lot split so that you would have that one lot at the 25,000, whatever you get for that lot, which is above the market appraisal that you were provided. You remember you were provided an appraisal. I think that you had a high and low on the lot, but I think the high was 19,000, if I'm not mistaken, on that vacant lot. And then you had the separate structure with a number of like 175 or so, I believe, if I'm dealing off the top of my head of the Hammock Hall structure. So, I mean, it was contemplated in the broker's opinion that you would have two parcels, but again, it's entirely up to you as what to do.
Commissioner?
Well, yeah, I think, you know, that's good in trying to get the maximum amount, but at the same time, getting the maximum amount and what it could potentially do to the community, we have to take all that into consideration, at least I would think. So we sold a lot and one person got the lot, another person got the other lot, and somebody else got the building, you got yourself a mess.
No, the building there wouldn't be three different lots there. There's one lot with the building and then one lot, and that split that you see there, there's two lots.
Okay,
One lot's got Hammett Hall on it and the surrounding property, which would actually increase the parking, if I'm not mistaken.
okay,
And then one lot is the adjacent lot, so there would only be two parcels.
okay. Okay, appreciate that, but I think, with what Hammett Hall and the South Historic representatives put together, I would like to give them first dibs. And that's just my opinion. We just have to talk with the commission and see what their position is, but I would like to at least let them have first dibs at that price, that they recommended.
It was marketed already on the MLS. My concern, and I'll just say this as somebody living in the neighborhood, who is the South Historic Neighborhood Association right now? Who comprises that membership? And the neighbors have not been told in that area. It was underutilized. I just have concerns about this proposal and the financial wherewithal of that organization to maintain that property. But that's just me because I don't have those facts.
And I would second, I don't live in the neighborhood, but I've stated multiple times, when we've had certain individuals come before us questioning who exactly is the Southside Neighborhood Association, because you've had in meetings where it says we are speaking on behalf of the Southside Neighborhood Association. Then you have people that live in the Southside, just like Madam Mayor, who said, no, we didn't vote about that. So I have a concern. I would love to see it stay local, but again, if it's not encompassed of the entire neighborhood association, of the people that actually live there, I think it's really ways, I think.
Yes, go ahead, Commissioner.
Standing correct myself and speaking, we did talk about a lot split, and I think the major concern was that neighbor who's adjacent to the Hammett Hall, given consideration, I think, because I think the entire issue came up with them parking, when they had events, they were parking, and then the neighbors couldn't get out of their property, off their lot, because people was blocking them in. Hopefully, they're one of the ones that want to buy that lot. If they don't want to buy the lot, that's gonna be like Commissioner Bourne said, it's gonna be kind of difficult for them, the new owners of the boat lot.
So I won't try to speak to details. The property was listed and I don't think that the neighbor submitted an offer, but I don't know why. I think that the neighbors are here tonight. So, and I don't know details about why. They were here, the Deckers were here. Did they
No,
leave?
they're not here. They weren't here. That's somebody else. Excuse me.
Well, I apologize.
That's okay. But the Deckers are not here. And that Jim and Maureen.
Okay, I apologize.
And I guess when we said sell it, we can't control buy it. We'll come up with money. I think that the issue we got is the $225,000 bids or whatever. How are we gonna determine?
I'll be honest with you, I'm gonna have to talk to Mr. Spalding about what we do with that, because I was looking at the contracts and, they're both bottom line $25,000.
The lottery?
Sir?
Yeah. Do a lot.
She's still with constant, that's all. But here again.
What are you saying there about?
Like a wheelchair.
Thank you. One of them is proposing to build a house apparently, and the other one may not be. And so, I mean, that would be maybe a distinguishing factor. But that, as I said, it was kind of as I understand it, they basically were just both given, if one of them even bid $25,000 and $2, but they both bid $25,000 even. So,
Well, I'll say, in making sure that we stay, true to a process, that we accept this matter as an emergency item to be added to the agenda for the proper discussion.
Second. Okay, motion second, all in favor? Aye. Any opposition? Okay. Now, silent to the emergency item.
Thank you. So,
I will also make a motion that we entertain the proposals that we have on the table, allowing staff and the realtor to just come up with the determining factor of who will be able to purchase coming up with it, but allowing the commission the final decision on the purchase.
probably what I would suggest, I apologize, you got your motion on the floor. Let's see what this.
So I'm willing to listen.
I was going to suggest that we got two high bidders. I would basically suggest we go back to both of them one more time and say, look, either get two bids at 25, we'll give you till 5 o'clock for somebody to say what their absolute maximum is, and hopefully they don't bid the same amount.
What I'm trying to repeat what it is that you say, I will accept what it is that you say. Which would allow us to go back to bidders to give them one last opportunity with the 5 o'clock deadline.
I second.
Okay, a motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? Okay, great. I'm sorry.
This is just for that.
This is for the vacant lot.
For the bid.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying, if we move forward this process, if the lots fail, that nullifies this right here, correct? This is what was submitted, so we don't have to.
But it would not, I mean, I want to just make you aware of that as for context. I did not want you not to be aware of that when you made a decision on the lots. That's the only reason I gave you that.
And I think my problem with this is if we have someone speaking on behalf of an association that is not really an association, I feel like it can come back and backfire on us as a commission.
Well, yeah, I understand it, but what I was just saying, I wanted to give them. I guess these people want to come to the table and talk to us about this. I just didn't want to just go ahead and do this piece without, but I just say no, I just say no, and we can move forward, I just say no until I can get better.
But before one vote.
This does not preclude them from coming back with more documentation, information, upon its existing surrounding property, but, it doesn't preclude that necessarily happening in the near future. I'd like to see again documentation about who, part of the membership, the votes that were taken to establish this proposal. I just don't see a lot of supporting documentation.
Right, I understand, but this kind of came in like a perfect storm. All of this stuff came back at one time when we got these through email, and then we got those bids and whatever that came back, and with the roads are coming back with high bidders. So it just kind of like a perfect storm. I just have to say no at this point because I'm not super clear on that. So that's it.
Thank you.
I would make this my last comment with regards to this because we haven't voted on, but I would say that the idea of the South Historic District purchasing the Hammock Hall has not been a new conversation. It's just been a conversation that has come back up. It was brought to us one time before by Mr. Russo on several occasions. So this is not the first opportunity that they've had to plan to actually purchase the facility.
This is not Mr. Russo owner though. This is also
People on
Mr.
behalf of
Allen.
the association.
I'm just saying, it's just a number of people in the association. I'm not clear who's all involved. I just want to give them an opportunity.
Thank you. With that said, I'm going to open the floor to public comments. Ms. Kitchens.
Allegra Kitchens, 1027 South 12th Street, Palatka, Florida. And I have a request of you that I think you can do by consensus, but if need be, I'd like you to put it on the agenda for the next time. I am on your one of your city committees and one of your city boards. And as such, and as a citizen of Palatka, I'm requesting that the city schedule training sessions for all board members, committee members, and commission members on the Sunshine Law, the latest version of Robert's Rules of Order, because that's what the city operates under by code. And I understand that there's some updated Robert's Rules of Order, as well as the Florida Ethics Law. And we've had several new board members and several new committee members And there's a current discussion about maybe combining two boards. So I think it'd be very advantageous for the city. And I know it would for me as a board member and as a citizen, I'd like to see the commission and all the board members and committee members be really up to date on all the rules that govern these operations. I would also, if it's possible, when you have these training sessions, that you can also put it into the public so that the citizens are a little bit aware of the rules of operation the government operates under. And if you need to put it on the agenda, or want me to come as an agenda item, I'll do that. I don't see this as an emergency item in any way, shape, or form. I think you can do it by consensus. In previous years, commissions have had training sessions on Florida ethics, sunshine law, and I know you all had some training on the sunshine law where Bradley never hurts, and especially Robert's Rules of Order. So if you want me to come back and put it on the agenda, I'll be glad to. Or if you want to put it on the agenda yourself, it has to be done that way, or if you can vote, you can do it by consensus. Just let me know what you want me to do and be polite.
Thank you, Ms. Kitchens, and I think it's a worthwhile thought for a future workshop in the near future. I think we could all use training in all those areas, whether we've had it or not. It doesn't hurt to have a refresher, so I think a workshop could be warranted. Ms. Thomas, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, Madam Mayor, we do conduct such workshops with the boards, historical preservation board, we've done with the planning board. We have conducted such items and given them a handbook in order for them to know what the items are. And the commissioners receive 4 hours of mandatory ethics credit
Every year.
training from the Florida League of Cities every year.
Well, that's good. I think we all need additional training on Robert's Rules of Order. They've been updated. The last time I checked them, they were updated the previous time I checked them. And somebody told me they've been updated even more. So I think it's very advantageous. We also have the zoning board of appeals. All the committees are also under the sunshine law. The tree committee, the citizens advisory task force, CDBG, which I'm an alternate member of. So we do need some more. We need at least for the Robert's Rules of Order. So I think that would be, if you all would do a workshop, and if you want me to get on the agenda the next time, I'll be glad to. Just let me know what you want me to do, other than just sit down. Which I want to do.
Thank you.
So you want me to get on the agenda, or can you do something about this without it being an agenda item, since it's a workshop?
Thomas?
I think we could do something.
Thank you, Ms. Thomas. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Bliss?
Hi, I'm Dr. Gary Bliss. I live at 134 Cedar Creek in Palatka. And I want to ask if it's appropriate, so I'm going to ask if it's appropriate to ask the commission if they want to ask any questions of any of the bidders, one of the bidders on the property. Is it appropriate for the commission to ask me any questions about what my intentions are on the property? Or is it appropriate for me to adjust my bid upwards to try to claim the property? If not appropriate, I will sit down.
We'll have to listen to.
I was gonna direct that to Mr. Henry and Ms. Thomas.
My understanding is that the commission approved our going back to the 2 high bidders, of which you are one. That's right. And giving both of you an opportunity to submit an additional bid within the same time frame without either of you knowing what the other bid is. You both already know that you both had $25,000 bids. So we would give both of you an opportunity to submit an additional bid like we did last time by, within a reasonable period of time. And then whoever is high in that bid process would take the property. Okay, so the commission might entertain.
We can't take discussion.
I think so, not at this time.
That's fine.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else here for public comments? Seeing none, we'll close public comment and move along to the consent agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Madam Mayor, we asked, is there anything that needs to be pulled?
Is there anything that you would be concerned with?
And Mayor, I would like for item 6B and 6C to be pulled.
Okay, any other requests? Items to be pulled?
I make a motion that we accept the consent agenda excluding items 6B and 6C for discussion.
Second. Okay, motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Thank you. Item B. You want us to speak to that? I mean, can you read that?
Yeah, here, I think that's the moment I'm getting out of a presentation from taking minutes. A resolution of the city of Palatka setting forth procedures for the hometown hero and unsung hero awards and providing for scrivener's errors. Resolution 2023 R56.
So. Second.
Question?
Yeah, well, those are two different awards as I recall. And one that was initiated Black History Month this year was the Unsung Hero Award. And that's when we proposed and how we agreed on every commissioner would pick one person that they want to have recognized, as we did, as unsung hero in our community. I'm okay with the parameters for the hometown hero because that already existed. But for the unsung hero, I would like to table that, pull that on the table so we have a discussion.
Did that already in the hometown, already exist?
The hometown already exists, I think.
Like I said, not,
Unsung was the one that we presented.
right, well, I don't know if it was to this.
It was.
To this degree.
That's what she just told us.
Well, if
One at a time.
Commissioner, it existed, but it didn't have criteria.
The hometown,
But, yeah.
Yeah.
right, okay, and that's what I said. I'm okay with that one.
Okay.
But the direction on the unsung hero we talked about, and we were gonna elect one person, but then we said, no, it'd be better to get all the commissioners to
Right.
recognize one individual. Black History Month, it coincides with Black History Month. And that was the last conversation I was with. Go ahead.
Commissioner, if we may, can we just table the entire portion of it versus just one item? If we can just table the entire item B and have that discussion at a later time.
Yeah, absolutely.
There is a motion on the floor, recognition of that.
This state is a motion, the second on the floor.
Motion to table takes precedence over any other motion.
Oh,
We have a
time
motion on the
certain.
table.
Time certain.
I mean, I would love to have it done represented that later, so take care of procedures, but Black History Month is over.
What about table next month?
The next meeting or next?
Next month, we don't need to add anymore to the agenda.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a motion to table and we schedule for next month, agenda next month.
Yeah.
Discussion.
Second.
Second, all in favor? Aye. Could you, Ms. Krantz, read C?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Resolution number 2022 R57, a resolution authorizing a budget transfer for fiscal year 2022-23 within the utility fund from executive salaries and travel to the general fund executive salaries and travel and providing for scrivener's errors.
That's C.
I went from B to C.
So moved.
So,
Second.
we have motion and a second, Mr. Ritter?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is the housekeeping item, Commissioners, the Mayor. What this is the estimated cost to the general fund and a reallocation of revenues and expenses from the utility fund to the general fund related to my change in title and covering the estimated payout associated with Mr. Holmes' retirement. The estimated payout for his accrued leave time.
The amount of $110,570.79. I mean, huh?
I wish.
I mean, it's,
That's not the payout.
it's a salaries and travel.
The total amount you see there is not associated with the payout. It is a reallocation of costs associated with my position Mr. Holmes' position and his payout. So these were all expenses that were going to occur no matter what. We're just reallocating them to the proper fund. So it is a net zero impact.
So from the utility.
Right, so I-
Okay, no, go ahead. Joe, you're gonna do it.
My question is there a way to be presented? I mean, you're not there right now, but a breakdown to see what's going where? I would like to know. That's your call.
So within the resolution, sir, under item number 3, you can see a breakdown. And you can see under the column of recommended amounts, the negative balances are the ones shown in red or in parentheses, and the positive amounts which equal the negative amounts. So you can see that there is a net zero impact going to each line item.
I asked the question that I had, to the city manager, not right now this week. I'm okay with it.
Commissioner Warren, you
Right, right. I mean, basically, you're going from the utility fund over to the general fund.
Yes, sir.
correct.
I mean, that's what I'm saying.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposition? Okay, thank you. Regular business, discussion, direction on the disposition of surplus property. Mr. Holmes?
Yes, ma'am, Mr. Griffith, we have some real properties that we would like your direction about, potentially disposing of. As you may have heard Mr. Griffith earlier, from earlier disposition of surplus properties, we accumulated a balance of about $44,000, I believe it was.
47 remaining. We actually accumulated more than that.
So we still have 47,000 remaining, and we're proposing to use that money, as you heard, partly in the blight removal process. We still have some surplus properties. Of course, this is a two-edged sword that cuts in favor of the city, at least from staff perspective, in that you put property back on the tax roll in the hands of private individuals, and the proceeds of the sales are used by us to try to hopefully improve other properties, which we may end up acquiring and selling and putting back on the tax rolls and using to continue the process down the road. So the properties Mr. Griffith has to present to you, obviously they would have to be declared surplus, and then we would offer them for sale. And we were proposing to offer them for sale again through a broker, but Mr. Griffith.
Yes, we've got the pictures here for you. Give you a general description of where these are. The first one is the vacant parcel behind Lucky Way at Hudson and Edgemore Street, next to College Arms. Ms. Grant, can we go to the next one? Actually, the next two parcels that you see here are adjacent to one another. These are at the intersection of Kirby and Morris, adjacent to the South Historic District next to the ravine. This is probably the only buildable portion of the city-owned land on that block. There's the second piece. Next slide, please. There's two here. This is the dead end of Olive Street at North 11th. We did have a prospective buyer that reached out about this about a month ago. They've just picked up one of the homes on this road and they're fixing it up. So there's that one, and then Ms. Grant's next slide should show the one on the corner of 11th and Olive. Yes, thank you. Next slide. Across the street to the south, another buildable lot at 11th and Olive, and another one. I think we may have one more. Yes. So North 12th Street at the end of Ocean Street on the other side of the railroad tracks. At first, we did not think that this was an accessible lot, but there is platted right away to this property. So it is a buildable lot. Right now, it's just wooded. All of these were previously identified for surplus about 2 years ago by staff. We're bringing them back to you. Our recommendation is to follow a similar process on hand call. If you declare them surplus and authorize us, we will reach out to the realtor, get a broker's opinion, and we'll report back to you on the high and low and get your authorization to list those on MLS.
We would not be listing them yet. We would just be going out for the broker opinion with a high, low, and then bringing them back to you at that point for you to say yes or no on whether to list them.
Yeah. You got to report it.
Yeah, we should. There's no sense in the city just.
Um, and I'm all for it as well, but in this process, is there any way, it's a legal question, any way that we could have in the language when we sell these properties to the surplus, that within a certain time frame, they're gonna have to make some improvements to the area versus being an absent landlord and just letting it grow up and stay grown like it is, I don't know what it's actually called. The language, the language is escaping me, what they would have to do, some type of action within a 2 to 4 year period on that property once they purchase it. It can't just lay dormant and vacant like that.
Ms. Thomas?
You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, sir. And yes, we could have such.
Yeah, so when we do that, I would love that language to be included so that people, sit around.
Normally, what that includes would be, for instance, a reverter clause.
Okay,
That you could implement, but it would be essentially one that stated that, if they did not do, if it is construct, a single family structure or whatever on the property within a lot of period of time, the city could exercise a reverter clause and pay them back the purchase price and basically repurchase the property. You couldn't take it back, but you could pay them back the purchase price and repurchase the property.
That's the only penalty they would incur. That's not really a penalty.
And the cleanup, maybe if there's anything relating to, the property being derelict, or anything that the city would have to put the, property back in the state it was, previously, just say if it was cleared land and they overgrown, then the city would need to go in and do the mowing and cleaning the property.
Go ahead,
up.
Ms.
So we just need to recover those costs.
Well, that would what make it fall back into code enforcement.
Yeah.
If there's some derelict and code enforcement would do that, and then go through the abatement process,
Right.
and then we get our.
So we have-
Our fund, whatever funds that we expended in order to bring the property into.
Technically, you could have put a reverter clause that said that if they didn't build, that it comes back to the city free of charge, but I doubt very, very seriously anybody would buy with the understanding that they could lose the property if they didn't build on within 2 years or whatever the time frame would be. You could do it.
Campbell has the floor now, please.
I believe in purposes of moving forward, that the request was to give staff the ability to go out and get it, the matter that we're talking about now, with regard to the reverter clause, will be after staff has brought us back the information that they are requested here. So that would be the appropriate time to have those additional conversations.
One last question.
Okay.
I know we just attended a conference and that came up, and other municipalities were doing that when they were surplusing property. They were to have some teeth in the contracts, a reverter clause of that, and so that made those properties be more valuable. The adjacent property owners were also happy due to the fact that they saw progress versus just another owner of the property. Go ahead.
Mayor, thank you, Blue. I'd like to offer a motion.
Okay.
I'd like to offer a motion that we give staff the ability to go out. Jonathan, if you would come back and help me lay out, as you stated, giving the authority to go out, get with the regulator, give us the.
Change PPO.
Hi, you're doing great, Commissioner. Secure a broker's opinion, probably without the cost, bring it back to you for your consideration and final authorization for surplus.
Repeat what he said.
We're all in favor? Thank you. On to number 8, adopt resolution 2023-69, new grants.
There are actually 2 different versions of this resolution. And if I may, I'll read one and then read the other. I read the first one is labeled 8 to know the difference between them. It's a resolution of the city of Palatka, Florida, authorizing the mayor to execute change order number 2A with Florida Trucking and Paving, doing business as J&M Milling Incorporated for hot mix asphalt paving services for a deduction of $58,774.26 for a total project cost of $121,186.62 and providing for scrimmage errors.
Mr. McMillan.
Option B
Sorry.
is a resolution of the city of Palatka, Florida, authorizing the mayor to execute change order number 2B with Florida Trucking and Paving doing business as J&M Milling Incorporated for hot mix asphalt paving services for an addition of $9,697.80 for a total project cost of $195,433.58 and providing for scrimmage errors.
So move, no, we have to.
Okay.
So move.
A or B?
What's that?
A.
What's that?
It's separate.
No. It's four.
Okay, well. We should have voted on it.
Mayor, could someone perhaps, move that, you enter into discussion on the option before a motion to pass either resolution?
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we move for discussion prior to making a overall recommendation.
Okay, another motion,
Second.
second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. McMillan.
Mayor, Commission, before you have two options. One was brought to us after reaching out to the residents on Dunner Street between 5th and 6th. We canvassed the neighborhood. They had two of them that actually live on Dunner Street that expressed some concern as to the necessity of paving the road, being that they would be the only ones affected by it. We have a letter provided by them and signed, basically alluding to, they're the only people that would be affected by this, which the cost of paving would be approximately $75,000. Pictured here are the two properties on the north side of Dunham. Now, those are the two residences that would be affected by this. A little further down on the southwest side, I believe, in green, was one resident who was in favor of paving of Dunham between 5th and 6th. I believe she was the one who had made the complaint about the water pooling at the end of 5th Street that is now addressed by the structure there. So change order to A would be deducting and removing the paving of that in consideration of the two residents who's on that street, outlining that they don't see the necessity of effecting a change for just them. 2B would be moving forward with the paving of that in consideration for the new hot mix asphalt prices proposed by the contractor after modifying the totals from removing Madison Street. In both change orders, we do have some necessary modifications to 17th and 18th Street to address some of the structures that we raised and pictured earlier, and some one manhole that needs to be raised up with a thicker collar.
Yeah, so maybe to help simplify. You remember all of this came to light because of a complaint concerned by the property owner that would be in the green, owner of the green parcel.
Correct.
About water traveling down 5th Street, is that not correct?
Yeah.
Earlier in Mr. McMillan's presentation, he showed you what he thought to be a
Structure to
cure
move the water.
for the water issue that particular resident was experiencing. Somewhere in the mix, the proposal arose to pave Dunham Street, which, as all of you probably know, is not paved, which is the stretch of street between the parcels that are to the upper side of the page and the parcels to the lower side of the page. And I guess what simplified, the folks in the red or pink, they don't want to pay. Is that right?
They don't see the necessity in it. Both of them, they're the only two people there.
They don't want to pay. The only one who does want to pay is the one on the green that's up to the south, who was first complaining about water, which we think we've addressed.
Right.
So paving it is going to take some yard of some of the folks that are there. That's one of the considerations of not paving it. Is that correct?
Correct. The right of way does extend significantly into what they have encroached upon. And it would require removing some landscaping, moving some of the personal belongings of the residents. Also, a community mailbox may be affected by paving operations. Their access during construction to these two people's homes would be disrupted multiple times as well.
So staff is fine, either way the commission wants to go. We wanted the commission to know that there are competing interests, concerns, or preferences, and we'll take the commission's direction.
Okay.
Go ahead.
If we would have taken a survey or a vote in that area, it would easily be outvoted by those that do not. So I would be in favor of going with the recommendation of the majority.
I'm just in favor of removing any of the substandard roads that we have in the city that, we could not have a lot of these dirt roads inside the city where people are paying taxes. So at some point, we have emergency, vehicles, among other things, have to travel some of these roads. So at what point are we gonna move away from having all of these dirt roads that you have to keep revisiting to have it either the county or the city? I don't think the city even go out to do any grading. So it takes multiple times to keep going out grading these roads. So that's wear and tear on the equipment, multiple visits, among other things. So we just need to look at not only just a one-time cost, but I just think whatever we need to do to improve it, I don't think it's gonna be a heck of a lot. I mean, from a standpoint, it's just gonna improve mobility, vehicle mobility.
I understand, I wholeheartedly agree, but you said the taxpayers who are paying it, the taxpayers who live on that road don't want it. So who are we gonna listen to, the majority or?
I'm just saying what we need to do throughout our city. The commission can do what it wants. That was my personal opinion.
Commissioner Jones.
I know that area well. Commissioner Bourne went out, I think I went out, them. And, another young lady that lived on that corner, she has a mobility issue. She had complained about it. To deal with the right of way, they're gonna lose property. That's not their property. That was a road. And what they have done is now taking over that road. If we actually have code enforcement go down there, I guarantee that's gonna be moved. It's on the roadway. It's blocking that roadway. So there also was a drain that was on that corner. It was repaired before you got here, Mr. McMillan. That had been neglected along with a sidewalk that was a hazard. So that area had been neglected for a long time. And that's two residents. I know those two wooden houses right on that corner, what you're speaking of. But there are 3 more houses right there in the same area. And one being the young lady that's been having a mobility problem in the flooding. We have a milling of whatever material you're gonna use. I think it'd be well spent, especially when 6th Street was freshly paved from Bronson all the way down to the corner, and then we just stopped the work. And then they have bricks going down on 5th Street to the corner and stop. I have to agree with Commissioner Bourne on this one. We need to go ahead and carry out that project. And that'd be my vote to carry it out.
That was option.
That would be option 2B.
Yeah, because we recently, well, 6th Street was done about 9 months ago, maybe. I don't think that was scheduled.
Commissioner Council.
I'm ready, whenever you all ready to all my decision.
The pleasure of the board.
You made a motion,
Yes.
Commissioner Bourne?
Well, I make the motion that we go with option 2B.
Second. All in favor? Aye. And any opposition?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
On to Commissioner's comments, Commissioner Campbell.
Yes, I have, just two comments. It's been a while since we've had a joint meeting with the county. I do believe that it's time that we come back around the table to discuss some of the joint ventures that we have as county and city. It's long overdue. We want to see it happen rather sooner than later, especially with some of the things that we have that are before our session and things of that nature. I think it will be the opportune time for us to join forces and talk about the things that we as a commission here locally in the city of Palatka have and with the county. My additional question, and this may be directed more so to Jonathan, is the clearing of the what's known as the Palm Bowl in Midtown. It's currently the housing of some of the lay down yard stuff, the pipes. I received a photo from one of the citizens that lives in that area. Children are playing, it was once a park. Children are playing or trying to play, but they're met with resistance with some of the pipes and some of the construction material that's there. Once I receive that information, I have a growing concern that one, we took away a park, and two, that someone may get hurt, not just a youth, but anyone could potentially be walking through. So what are we doing to take safety measures as a city to either one, put signage up to not encourage individuals to play, to make it more safe, to remove it? I would like to know what steps can we take to make sure that we don't run into injury.
So just some general background so you understand your options. It's not something that we currently specify in our standard contract that they have to fence their laydown yard. The city is listed as an additional insured by all of its contractors, but that does not fully mitigate what Commissioner Campbell is bringing up. So some options for you to consider, and then the implications of those are the first, requiring the contractor to post no trespassing and signage to notify people that they're to stay off of the property while it's being utilized for construction purposes. The second is the city either requiring a contractor or installing temporary construction fencing, both of which would be an added cost to the project. So as I see it, those are really only your two options. The second one probably being the most definitive one in mitigating the majority of the risk. And Commissioner Campbell did forward me the picture, and you do have kids sitting on PVC pipe, hearing to play some sort of pickup ball game.
There's no conflict with ball.
There you go.
So, I agree with, then I'm going to back into this one, but I agree with Commissioner Campbell on the, we do need to make a meeting with the county, but we need to make sure that we have the priorities and different things of that nature, that when we do go there, we know what we're going to be meeting about. We've had numerous meetings with them prior to, and so we need to go back to the table and try to continue to push the things that are going to help remove a number of the issues that we're having with overlapping services among with the enclaves, among other things. So there's a whole other ballgame. Again, like option, the second option that you mentioned about the moving on now to the safety. I think we should not minimize the safety side of things and without noticing where if people are not going to listen or follow those things. We need to make sure that we do our part in putting up whatever fencing that we need to be able to keep people out of those construction areas. That's just my opinion.
Do we not as a city, in a temporary fencing that we utilize for projects? We don't have that kind of stuff just for our.
No, sir. We typically just contract for those services, or if a contract specifications called for it, they would just have a subcontractor come in and install that fencing. But if it's the will of the commission, we can we can do that on the two laydown yards that are currently in use. The one that Commissioner Campbell mentioned, and the other one that's at the end of Laurel Street. I believe it's Laurel and 10th Street. And I believe the project budgets would be able to sustain that additional cost.
Okay, somebody want to make a motion?
I would make that motion.
And you're under comments, so somebody will have to make a motion and make it.
Well,
for
I'll-
the item.
Can we put this on the, well, we need to do it.
Consensus is enough.
Can we do a consensus or do we need by consensus?
We hear you.
I'm awful.
Yeah, can I interrupt 1 second, just for record purposes, the earlier motion to approve was to approve 2B. Actually, kind of just for clarification, seek confirmation that what you passed was resolution 2023 R69B,
Yes.
which was the one that would have been paving or putting the hot mix down on Dunham Street, correct? So that was the resolution B. You read both resolutions were read. And then when the motion was made, it was to approve 2B. I'm simply, for record purposes, seeking confirmation that you were referencing 2023 R69B. Is that correct? Okay. Apologize, I'm through.
Commissioner Jones, any comment?
No,
Commissioner Warren, any further comment?
No comments.
Commissioner McCaskill?
Just want to make sure when we schedule that meeting, and maybe this was something that you were talking about with the county, that we have what we're going to talk about before we get there, so we'll be well prepared for Anna before they have that conference.
Also, Madam Mayor, I want, those that attend meetings to be mindful of the things that are said there and after. I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you. Okay, with all that said, this meeting is to motion to adjourn.
Adjourn.
Thank you all.